All right. Well, it is 11 o'clock and I know we are all busy. We have a lot to do today. I want to welcome you. I want to say thank you for being here to our virtual learning town hall. This is geared towards our virtual learners and our virtual learning families. It is okay if we do not have a million people on this call because people will watch it. We do record these, we do post them on our website, and I always get lots of emails after these just asking where I can find the recording because we do know that 10 a.m., 11 a.m. in the morning sometimes is a difficult time for our families to engage and to join us. So this town hall is going to be geared around our virtual learners and our virtual learning families. I want to tell you a few things. First of all, I want to say thank you. First and foremost, I understand that it has been a difficult year for everyone. I understand that everyone is doing what is best for their families in regard to face-to-face or virtual learnings. There is no wrong choice for learning right now. And I want to say thank you for sticking with us for our virtual families, especially, and really probably experiencing more change than most of our face-to-face learners because many of them have changed to new homerooms and so forth. I understand it can feel a little bit disconnected to the school, and we want to make sure that we do everything in our power to make sure that whether you are virtual or in person, simultaneous, asynchronous, it doesn't matter, that we are all one Morris Brandon family. And there are brighter days ahead. We will all be back together again soon. So I just want you guys to know that, and that's why we are here today. Every town hall that I did leading up to face-to-face learning was geared just for that, was geared just for face-to-face learning, mitigation strategies, safety, capacity, schedules, all of that. And I realized that maybe our virtual families did not get the time that they maybe needed to be heard or to listen or to get some of their questions answered. So I have brought on a myriad of people today to really talk to our virtual families and to give you all the time that you need to really ask questions, to hear about our supports, and to just get what you need, because sometimes it can get watered down when we have 200, 300 people on a call that we've normally had. So thank you for being here. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box, and we do have a lot of people on here that can help to answer. But today we're going to talk a little bit about around our virtual engagement, some of the ideas that we've been discussing with our Go team around really engaging our virtual learners and helping them feel more connected, and really making sure that they still feel like they are a part of the school and they still have their in-person friends and virtual friends. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about virtual supports that still continue even in virtual learning. Nothing goes out the window with virtual learning. We still have all the supports available. So you're going to hear from our awesome teachers on that. We're going to hear from a DLI teacher. I do think it's important we talk about DLI because they are the only class really in all of Morris Brandon that are teaching simultaneously. So they do have virtual learners in their classes with in-person learners. So you're going to hear from Isabel Garcia in just a little bit. We're going to talk about the instructional piece, what you don't see behind the scenes in regard to our virtual teachers and their planning and the planning process that does take place on Wednesdays with our in-person gen ed and our virtual gen ed teachers. So you'll hear from Dr. Porter just a little bit around our PLC process and how she plans with the 5th grade teachers and delivers the same instruction. You're going to hear a little bit just about testing. Testing is important. It's not the most important thing right now, I can tell you that, but it is important. I say that because just yesterday, the governor, the state of Georgia, Kemp, did request another waiver to try and get out of Georgia Milestones this year in the middle of our pandemic. But testing is still happening, and we have some tests that need to be done in person. So you're going to hear a little bit around from Sonia Walston on gifted testing, and then we'll just talk briefly on Georgia Milestones because that is still up in the air. And then lastly, I'll touch upon our intent to return. You do know that the window for intent to return is open now. It will close on March 8th. It's not a ton of time. We do not want to make any changes after March 8th. We want to do what's best for our students though. So we'll talk a little bit about capacity and then finishing the year virtually if that is the choice or decision that you'd like to make. But outside of that, without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and get started. We're going to go till about 11:45. I can stay on as long as we need because we want to give our virtual families really as much attention as they need. So Mr. Hudson's going to talk just for a second, just about our virtual team.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here today to introduce the virtual team, and we have Ms. Lucky, that was a kindergarten teacher and still is a kindergarten teacher, but now she is our virtual teacher. Miss Kendall, which was a first grade gifted teacher, or a gifted teacher, which is now teaching first grade gifted. Miss Bird, our famous second grade teacher, and she's continuing in second, but just as a virtual teacher. Miss Knuckles, which is doing intervention this year, or starting off the year doing intervention, who has been a longtime third grade teacher, but she is now doing the virtual third grade. We also have Miss Davis, which was our former ESOL teacher. At the beginning of the year, she was working in ESOL and last year, but now has accepted a position to help us out in fourth grade, teaching fourth grade fourth grade virtual. And she has been a teacher before in the classroom, other than just, other than just ESOL. She's taught regular general ed, third, fourth grade, and so forth. Now, fifth grade is a little bit special and different because in the school right now, that's the only grade that does not have a DLI class. So their class numbers were larger. So we have Dr. Porter and a full-time para that's working with her, Miss Brown. Dr. Porter, which you'd also know, came from Gifted, and she volunteered to help us out with our virtual students this year. So that is our virtual team this year.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I totally forgot, by the way, and I always do this, and I'm sorry, to introduce our PTA president that is on the call as well. And I just want to say hi to Wendy Ray. And Wendy, do you want to say anything to our families before we move on?
Sure. Thanks, Jay. I'm Wendy Ray, and I'm one of this year's PTA co-presidents. Michelle Hatch is our other co-president, and she's sorry she couldn't join today, but welcome to all of you, and just want to give you a quick message that if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us. Our email is presidents@morrisbrandon.com. We have PTA volunteers working hard on some things behind the scenes. Next big event will be our readathon, which will be virtual for all of our students. And we're really excited about the new platform that we're going to roll out. So stay tuned to that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And I would be remiss if I did not recognize our phenomenal foundation president, who's also on here as a parent as well. So I don't know if she has anything to say yet, but I do just want to say hi to Catherine Edgecombe. Catherine, do you want to say anything or just say hi?
No, thanks. I appreciate you all doing this and what everyone on the staff and the PTA and the Go team is doing to help with virtual parents and virtual students, as well as our face-to-face learners. So thank you. And I look forward to hearing what you have to share today. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you. And then our final person I have to introduce is, of course, our Go team representative who does represent our parents and our families and our community, Ms. Peyton Johnston. And Peyton has been really an advocate for our virtual learning students, to making sure that they are getting what they need from a social emotional standpoint, from a connecting standpoint, from a Morris Brandon family standpoint. So I'm going to hand it over to her just for a couple of minutes so Peyton can talk a little bit about virtual engagement and some of the things that we've been discussing in our Go team.
Thanks, Jay. I really appreciate the time to be here today, and so nice to see so many friendly faces, and I look forward to getting to know so many of you that are on the phone today and in our broader virtual family community. As Jay said, my name is Peyton Johnston, and I'm on the Go team here at Morris Brandon. I have a second grader, Collier, and a rising kindergartner, and I'm here, as Jay said, to talk to you about virtual family engagement. First of all, let me say thank you to each of you. I know the last 11 months has been difficult. I know that the decision to keep your child home in a virtual setting right now was also one that was not taken lightly by any of our virtual families. Thank you for supporting your child and their education and for being part of our great Morris Brandon community. Thank you for the sacrifices that it's taking to pull this off right now. And for purposes of today, thank you for your patience over the last few weeks as we have transitioned some of our students back to the physical setting. I hope that I can be a lifeline to each of you. If there is anything that the last year has taught me, it is that community is critical, which is why I volunteered to lead virtual family engagement for the next few months. You will be getting communication over the next week via your room parents about some fun but completely optional activities that we have planned for your children to maintain connectivity to the broader Morris Brandon community. I'd invite you to participate in any and all of that feels right for you and your family. To be clear though, none of these ideas are meant to cause any additional stress. If it feels like one more thing, do not worry about it. In addition to this, we are working hard to maintain a lot of the traditions that Morris Brandon is known for, inclusive of our virtual students. You've already heard some anecdotes about some of those things like readathon that are well underway. We're also thinking about things like 5th grade send-offs and other fun Morris Brandon traditions. We don't want anybody to feel excluded, no matter how you are learning right now. Lastly, we want to ensure that you have communication paths to raise your concerns or questions. As a parent, I know that it can sometimes be hard to know who to go to. We've got an amazing leadership team here at Morris Brandon and a lot of other leaders throughout the PTA and Foundation and Go team that are ready and here to support you. We are working hard to make sure that you have fast and effective ways to get answers and support as you need it. Thank you, Jay, to you and your team for all that you've done and getting us to this point, and we're looking forward to closing out the year strong. Please know that you are a valued member of our Morris Brandon community. My email address, as you can see, is listed here on this slide, and I'll be communicating my contact information out with the communication that will go out over the next week. Please don't hesitate to pick up the phone or shoot me an email. I would love your feedback. I've talked to several of you over the last several months in preparation for this, and I would love to get some additional feedback as well to understand what you and your families need to be set up for success. Thanks so much, Jay, for the time.
Let me unmute. Thank you, Peyton. It is great that you are an advocate for our virtual learners, for somebody who can bring any questions or concerns or ideas to our Go team and really entertain that on an equal platform for all of us. So that is awesome, and thank you for heading that up. All right, let's keep moving on. So we did talk for a minute about readathon, and I do want to talk about that just for a second. And I see Christine is on there. Mr. Hudson and myself did meet with Christine a few days ago. So this is breaking news, because the community doesn't even know about this yet. We want to talk about readathon with our virtual learning community first, and know that anytime we are planning school-wide functions and activities like this moving forward, that we are totally looking at it from a virtual standpoint to make sure that everybody is included. So I'm going to hand it over to Christine, who can talk about our readathon for just a couple minutes.
Thank you, Principal Bland. Hi, everyone. I'm Christine. I am one of the two readathon chairs this year, and we are very excited. We're a little over a month away from the readathon. This year, it'll take place from March 22nd to March 29. And as Wendy mentioned earlier, it will be 100% virtual. And I'm really excited about that because my children are virtual, and I am very passionate about the readathon. So the virtual children won't feel left out, and the face-to-face children will also be able to participate and get excited about reading. We're very excited about the platform that we'll be using, and it will be online, but parents will also have a chance to download an app and scan books that their children read and tag the minutes that way as well. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for everybody. And we are very excited also about the virtual author. So on March 24th, we're going to have a read all day event where teachers will be guest readers, and the students will have a chance to log in and log off throughout the day to participate. And our virtual author will be, I forgot.
Mike Lowry.
Mike Lowry. He is a fantastic, he's from Atlanta, Georgia, and he is a fantastic author. He's an illustrator. He started as an illustrator, and he's illustrated books for fantastic authors like Mac Barnett. And we're really excited to have him. He is really excited to be as author at a school in Atlanta, his hometown. So we'll have that on Wednesday as well as part of the Read All Day event. We'll have the virtual high rally as well, where all the students that have read will have a chance to be celebrated as well. So that's what we have. And I think that's all I wanted to say. We'll also have prizes and awards for students and classrooms that read the most. will actually looking into, I'm going to throw this sneak peek in there. We found an alpaca farm that is willing to let Principal Bland kiss one of their alpacas. So it's brand new. We heard back from the farm owners last night. So that'll be exciting. It doesn't sound as fun as kiss the cow, but kiss the alpaca sounds just as fun. So that's what we're working on, and we're very excited to share all this information with you. And again, feel free to email me or Kim if you have any questions about the readathon. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think we're all learning something new on this call. So
Thank you. I'll be happy to film Mr. Bland doing that if you need me to.
All right, so moving along, thank you, Christine. I appreciate that again. So moving along, we want to talk just a little bit about the instructional piece, because there's a lot of work that's done on the back end that maybe you don't see. Because while it does maybe feel like there's a disconnect maybe between the in-person and virtual, and we really want to close that gap, the teachers still communicate and work together extremely closely. I'm going to let Dr. Porter talk just for a couple minutes around some of the work that she does on Asynchronous Wednesdays and some of the planning that she does with her Miss Brown, and how that is really the same instruction minute by minute, day by day, for the most part, as you would see in a gen ed classroom. So Dr. Porter, do you mind giving us just a couple minutes?
God, I was muted. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Porter, and currently I am the virtual 5th grade teacher. I am normally the gifted teacher, but I have always worked with 5th grade. I've always been in their PLCs because I was the one that created the lessons for 5th grade gifted. So I'm very familiar with everything they do. I've been working with them for the last 10 years, I guess. So every Wednesday we do meet as a team, and they are very helpful. They're making virtual very convenient for me, although they're back in the classroom. So they're helping me, and they're assisting me with making sure that the kids get exactly the same thing they're getting face-to-face. So you don't have to worry about that. We are doing exactly the same thing. We are just doing it virtually. And I might be doing it a little differently with a different PowerPoint as far as using, what is it called? Nearpod or something like that, but I'm doing exactly the same thing. So you don't have to worry about that. I also have a mentor who is Miss Heron. We debrief every day after school. So around 6 o'clock, we get together, and if I have a question or concern or issue, she's the one that helps me through it, or she lets me know what I need to do for the next day. So each one of us on virtual land teachers have a mentor as well that is face-to-face. So that's one great thing. Ms. Brown and I meet every morning before class just to make sure that there's, she knows the flow of the class, she knows what's going on. She is not just sitting there being a nobody. She is really working with the kids. We put them in small groups if they need it. She's there to assist. She is writing on the board if she's, we're doing an assignment. She's actually putting in keywords on her screen so that kids will actually be able to see what we're talking about so they can copy it in their notes. So this has really worked out. I mean, it's a large number, but it's really have worked out, and the parents have been very supportive. So I just want you to know that virtual land is not virtual land. We have support. We have administrative support. I know I've talked to Ms. Lamb at the afternoon. I've talked to Ms. Little. I've talked to Ms. Small. So we're not on an island by ourselves. We have the assistance. We're doing what is done in the classroom. So I just want you to be assured that your child is learning and getting the same thing that is being stated or done in the classroom.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What a great message. If you're not sure what PLC stands for, I just want to define that. PLC is our professional learning communities. It's a buzzword that's well known in the educational field. Our teachers come together and they generally talk about 4 things. What do we want our students to know? How do we know they know it? What do they do when they don't know it? What do they do when they do know it? And that really drives the conversations for our teachers. PLC conversations have definitely changed over the last 10 months because you're talking about a whole lot of other stuff now as well. But our teachers are on content planning teams. And what Dr. Porter just talked about for 5th grade is the same for kindergarten. It's the same for first. It's the same for second. So it's really great because Dr. Porter does not have to plan all the instruction because some of her grade level teachers are on that content planning and can share information with her, and she just redelivers it, which makes it that much easier, but that much more consistent across the class. I would be remiss if I didn't mention DLI, because DLI is special and does not also has virtual learners, and they are one of the only groups in the school that have to teach in person and virtual students at the same time. So we want to give special love to our DLI teachers that are balancing almost twice the work. But if they weren't so incredible, I would be worried, but I'm just not, because they are. So I want to hand it over to our DLI lead, and she is on our leadership team, and she really is the lead DLI teacher in the school, Miss Isabel Garcia Marquez, Senora. And she's going to talk to you just for a couple minutes around how it's working in DLI, some of the struggles, some of the challenges, and then a little bit about the simultaneous instruction that we're seeing there.
Thank you. Well, good morning. Like Mr. Bland said, my name is Senora Garcia, and I am the second grade Spanish DLI teacher. As you may know, simultaneous instruction is taking place in our DLI setting, which basically means that all of our DLI teachers are teaching both in-person and virtual students at the same time. And while this has been challenging, especially at the beginning, when we came back, we have been very successful at it thus far, I believe so. Some of the challenges that we had, first and foremost, were like technology challenges. For example, now because we're engaging in that simultaneous instruction, we need to make sure that everything is properly set up way in advance so that the simultaneous instruction can happen. And it might look different now. It is more time consuming just because, we're not only doing the traditional things that we used to do, like setting up our computer with the board, but now we have to set up an OWL camera, a document camera, a wireless headset, and all these things. So it's a little bit more challenging, a little bit more time consuming. But with that said, I think we're at week 4 now at the PC, and we've become experts, and it takes us half the time that it used to when we started week 1. And, admin has been very supportive. They have gotten us everything we need to be successful at this. Like, they've got OWL cameras for all of the DLI teachers. And I think that has been very successful. We are definitely using it in second grade. And, that is one of the things, or a technology device that is helping a lot, because it allows our virtual students to feel included, just because, that camera follows us around, and it also shows the students in the classroom. So I feel like the students that are at home have an opportunity to, like I said, feel included, because they can see their classmates, they can engage, they can interact with their classmates, and they also get to, follow us around in the classroom, even though they are still at home. One of the other challenges that we've had, of course, is just how do we teach both groups of students at the same time, because we don't have necessarily that dedicated virtual teacher. So things like, how do we keep them engaged? How do we make sure they're following along? How do we support them when they need, when they need that support? And although we still have room to grow and we're still working through it, I feel like, again, we've been successful at it by mostly our careful and advanced planning. Like Dr. Porter was mentioning, we also have the PLCs, we plan with our grade level, we meet as DLI as well as a DLI team. And so that common planning and that advanced planning is very helpful. Now we have to be extremely, I'm thinking in Spanish, sorry. We have to be really thinking about having resources ready to go for when these students are early finishers or for when they need extra support, because now we don't necessarily have them in front of us. So we're doing that well. And we also, like most of the grade levels, have dedicated time of para support, which has been fabulous, because then what that looks like is Senora Sosa might come in, and then she might be able to, and she provides support for those virtual learners, or I might put them in a breakout room, so she can help them while we are helping the students in class. So we have that extra person that is also helping us out. And also because the students are not switching like they would do in a normal year, it's the teachers that are switching in the rooms, right? It is helpful for us as well, because now we're only doing the SUMI portion, right? Half a day, not the entire day, which is also very helpful for us. We're just, finding a lot of ways to keep the engagement going. And this obviously might look different by grade levels, but like I said, includes that para support, includes the common planning, including the virtual students in the discussion and giving them multiple opportunities to participate. We're trying to be very attentive to that so they don't feel like they're excluded. And I think that it's working very well. And also we're being flexible with the breaks throughout their days. Just, they're learning the exact same things that our kids at school are, but they do have a different schedule, based on the breaks that our kids at school have. But we also do like a virtual behavior system. So they're included in that sense, a virtual rewards system like Treasure Box and things like that. And another great thing that we're doing is that because now Wednesdays are asynchronous Wednesdays, we get to check in with our virtual students on Wednesdays. So if you are a DLI parent, I encourage you or advise you to check in with your child's DLI teacher if you're not aware of like when those times are. Like, for example, Miss Fallon and I in second grade, like she checks in with her students from 10 to 10:30, and I check in with my students from 10:30 to 11. So that way we can provide a little bit of, one-on-one support or small group support for those students that are at home. And lastly, I think that, although having a dedicated virtual teacher, which is the case for the bulk of Brandon's virtual students, is extremely beneficial, I want to assure you that all of our DLI teachers, including myself, we are making sure that our virtual students are still a priority, no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter that they're at home, they are a priority for us, and we're doing the best we can to make sure that they're with us and they're following along and they feel as included as possible. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. That was a great, that was great. I think it's obvious that Morris Brandon definitely attracts the best talent from hearing from Dr. Porter and Isabel. So we got more of them coming in a second. So awesome job. And thank you for talking a little bit about DLI and your simultaneous teaching. I wanted to highlight just for a second, a little bit of the schedule, just for 30 seconds to see that this is an example of a second grade virtual schedule, but you can see that these specials that start at 11:50 for a gen ed class like Senora Garcia is also the same as the virtual schedule for the virtual class. And the reason we do that is because we don't want, we really want to limit the roomies and zoomies and specials. So we don't have any of those actually. So Isabel's virtual students actually move over to Miss Bird's specials class so they can all have the virtual, so they can all see Mr. Carr, Miss Ingram, Coach Patton, Miss McCarron on the same day with only a virtual setting. So that definitely that definitely keeps our virtual students at the forefront, and they get a dedicated virtual specials teacher as well. And the same thing goes for this 8:40 to 9:20 block. That's going to be the same for an in-person or virtual teacher. That is second grade's intervention block. That's a time when Isabel will have language lab on B days. Sorry, I need to go to her schedule. She'll have language lab on A days, which means that we actually have a virtual paraprofessional who is Spanish speaking push into the class virtually and actually teaches all of her in-person students virtually as well as her virtual students. So they are all able to see each other on the computer together. And that happens every other day for DLI, and that's K through 4. And then also, and Ms. Little will talk about this in just a minute, we still offer virtual intervention for face-to-face or virtual students every single day during this time for second grade. And then there's a set time for every grade level. So we want to make sure that our virtual students are still getting the same high quality instruction that has been come to be expected from our Morris Brandon staff. So let's talk a little bit more about some virtual support. We know, and I'm going to skip over the special education and language learning part. Actually, I'm going to hand it to Dwight. He's going to talk about this for a second, and then he'll introduce Ms. Little, Ms. Walston, and Ms. Whitaker to talk about some of the supports that they are still providing for our virtual learners. Thanks, Dwight.
So good morning once again, and we just want everyone to know that students that require specialized support will continue to receive that assistance during virtual school, just as if they were in the building. And so in regards to special education, all of the timelines remain the same. That does not change whether you're virtual or face-to-face. And even students that require paraprofessionals, if they are in virtual school, they also have paraprofessional support in a virtual classroom. And they will continue to be eligible for all services, whether it's speech, OT, or whatever have you. We'll figure out a way to get it if they're not getting it. And all students are receiving what they require at this time. And so we have our 4th grade teacher, Ms. Davis, our virtual 4th grade teacher, Ms. Davis, which transitioned from ESOL into 4th grade virtual. And she'll be first up to speak about ESOL services and how they're being provided at this time, virtually or in person.
Rachel was not able to make it on, so we're going to move to Ms. Little. How about that?
Well, so if she wasn't able to make it on, we can just say that the ESOL students are still receiving their services. The PC teacher is now the full-time teacher, and she's providing services in the morning face-to-face for the students that are here at the PC. And in the afternoon, she's providing those same services to the students that are at the main campus. However, she is doing that virtually for all students. So ESOL services are still continuing throughout the year, whether those students are virtual or face-to-face. So now we will skip over to Ms. Little, our intervention teacher, to talk about how students are receiving intervention during the school year.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. I am Mindy Little, and I am the student support team, or the SST 504 contact for Brandon, as well as doing the reading intervention for the main campus. Amy Rubidoux is my counterpart at the primary center. So she and I are a team right now, and anything that is happening here at the PC is also happening at the MC in the same form, just for appropriate for those kids K and through 2. So all intervention, as Mr. Hudson said, is happening during your scheduled win time, and that is consistent every single day, except for the asynchronous days, of course, with each grade level. And it happens for virtual students and in-person students at the same time. And these virtual classes are, I lost my train of thought, I'm so sorry. The virtual classes are virtual for in-person students as well as students who are face-to-face. So they face-to-face students remain in their classroom, and for a virtual student, nothing has changed during this intervention block. They still log into the same intervention Zoom. It's still the same teacher, and they're still doing the same kinds of activities. So if anything, that transition has been really smooth for these kids. It has been successful, and I look forward to continuing it. And it's a nice time for kids who are virtual to see the kids who are in face-to-face, but they don't feel any different because, you know, the virtual kids are still required to have a device that works with headphones and a mic. So it really puts everybody back kind of on the same playing field. And then Amy and I also serve students and families through SST and 504, which is an additional intervention piece. We can be contacted at our respective schools, and we think of ourselves as the welcoming committee for all things student support. So really everything starts with student support team, or SST. So please reach out to us if you have any specific questions about either the intervention piece or starting something or concerns that you have with your own students. And I'm happy to put my information and telephone number in the chat if you have specific questions you'd like to ask me later. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Little. And next up to speak about gifted virtual instruction and in-person instruction, as well as gifted testing, we have Ms. Walston.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm excited to be a part of this session so that I can make sure that everybody's informed about some of the details that are happening with testing. I know that there was a lot of delay with testing because the district was trying to make sure that they were able to still offer testing and also make sure that all of the assessments will still be able to be valid and have fidelity. Being face-to-face was critical to having that to be done. So in the fall, we would normally have a second look testing window, and that had to be postponed. And they announced once the reopening of school that we are going to go ahead with testing. But because we are so late in the year, they are streamlining our testing, and we're combining both our second look and our first look students together. So if there are any parents that are on the call that have students that they referred as a parent referral at the beginning of the school year, or if you had a student that tested in the spring and they are up for a second look, you should have received a communication from me, because as soon as I got word that we were going to have testing, then I tried to go ahead and put that information out. We are still in the process of finalizing and compiling the testing roster, because there are 3 ways in which students can be referred for testing if they are a first look student. So in the beginning of the years, many parents did a parent referral, and then we also do teacher referrals, and then the district will do a query where we'll look at data, and we will do automatic referrals as well. So I am at this point right now working with the district on trying to identify those students that met the criteria for both teacher and automatic referrals. Within the next few days, meaning Monday and Tuesday of next week, I will be sending out communications to those parents if your children qualified and made the qualifications to be a teacher or automatic referral. Things are going to be running really fast, because our timeline for doing testing is going to be from the beginning of March 1st, and we're going to conclude and end all testing by April 2nd. So that's our timeline. Because we are streamlining the testing, we're putting 2 testing groups together in 1 testing window. The district has suggested that we also modify our testing schedule. So some parents may have already received letters from me that talked about, particularly if they have a first look student that's going to be a tester. And this is someone that's never been tested before, or someone that's starting the cycle all over again, that there are a total of 6 assessments that that child has to take. Before the pandemic and when everything was pre the pandemic, we were allowed to pull the kids on 6 different occasions to have the kids to come and sit to take those different assessments. The district is suggesting that we now move to a 3 assessment session period. So that means that the kids would be taking 2 assessments each time that they meet with the gifted teacher. In terms of our virtual students, we want to make sure that they also have an opportunity to participate. So the district sent out a letter, which I forwarded that last week, and that letter pretty much stated that every student, regardless of whether or not they are face-to-face or if they are virtual, they will have to come into the building to sit for the test. So we're looking at 3 sessions for the students to come in to take the test that they need to take if they are a first look student. And if they are a second look student, most of my students need to do between 1 or 2 assessments, and that might mean that they may have to come just 1 time. Again, we are still trying to get those rosters together. The schedule is not quite finalized as of right now, but we are looking at trying to make sure that we are being very much aware and conscious and following best practices in regards to COVID. So the goal is to not put our face-to-face and our virtual students in the same testing sessions. So we're looking at creating 2 different testing schedules, one for our students that are face-to-face and having a separate testing date for the students that are virtual. And right now we are considering using our Wednesday asynchronous day as the day for testing our virtual students. But more information is to come around how that will actually look.
Thank you, Ms. Walston. And next we have our counselor, or the Elementary School Counselor of the Year, Ms. Whitaker.
Hello, everyone. So good to see you all. Good to be here. Thank you for reminding me of that every time you get a chance, Mr. Hudson. So your virtual students still get classroom instruction from me. So I see them in the specials rotation. Depending on who their teacher is, you know, it'll depend on how often they see me, anywhere from once every 4 days to once every 5 days, I think, and then once every 6 days, something like that. So if they need to speak with me individually, all they have to do is drop that message in the chat when I'm with them in class, or say something to their teacher, and their teacher will email me. Of course, parents, you know, always email me. Sometimes you guys email Mr. Hudson or Mr. Bland, and then they'll loop me in, and then virtually, of course, I'll pop into their class, and then the teacher will just put us in a breakout room. That's the most common way that happens. Sometimes I send parents my own private Zoom link as well. So those things are still happening. I've also done like social lunch bunch or lunch brunches with kids on Wednesdays if they seem to just be really having some struggles, you know, with the social piece of not being in class with their peers. So we can set those things up too if you think that your students need that. And last but not least, right, as great as Brandon is and as wonderful as we all are, and, you know, even though I just so happen to be coming off of having that Counselor of the Year title, we all make mistakes, and Ms. Whitaker made a huge one last week. So who more appropriate to apologize, right, than the school counselor? So I had to apologize to my 5th graders because I did not send Dr. Porter the link for the Sutton Roadshow. So luckily, the positive thing, if we could say anything positive about being on Zoom and being virtual, is that 99% of the time our meetings are recorded. So the roadshow was recorded, and I sent Dr. Porter the link, and she's going to show it to the 5th grade, her class that missed the roadshow, either today or early next week. And if your kids have any questions, they can just send those questions to me, and I'll send them over to Sutton, and they're going to answer all of those questions and send those back out to us. So if your student was one of those kids that was in Dr. Porter's class and missed the roadshow, I apologize sincerely. Charge it to my head, not my heart, but we will get them that information because they did record that meeting. So that's it for me. Your students will see me, email me. My office number is 7267. That's the last 4 digits, 404-802-7267. Of course, my email is T as in Tango Jackson, even though you guys, know me as Whitaker. But if you want to find me on the email, it's T Jackson. All right, that's it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Whitaker, and thank you, everyone. I'd just like to reiterate before we move on that all services that are available face-to-face are also available as we are virtual. And if you have any questions or any doubts, please feel free to contact one of the administrators, and we will get you the proper answer and the support that you need.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Thank you to our phenomenal teachers. I do know what we are still working today. So if you need to jump off, I know a few of them already have. You can, no problem. We're going to move a little quicker because we are almost done. I do want to review some of these testing dates with you. Access is almost coming to a close, but that's for our language learners. We are doing benchmarks now, and our virtual students are participating as well. Ms. Walston talked about the gifted testing and the assessment that's going to start in just a couple weeks. That is on there with some more information coming, as well as the Georgia milestones. Yes, at the end of the year, those are the dates. If you are unaware, the governor today submitted a waiver to see if we can postpone the Georgia milestones this year. But for right now, these are the dates, and gifted and milestones will most likely be required in person. And I know Gifted is. So we're going to have some more information and conversations around that, how will it look. So more information coming out. But as always, one day at a time. So I had a question around a little bit around the intent to return survey, and I'm going to close with this. And the question had to do with, what happens if we have all of our virtual students that want to come back, right now? Is that going to push us over the top? Is there a tipping point? Is there a place where that all of a sudden the whole school has to go hybrid? And I can tell you this, first of all, I don't have all the answers to that right now. Our goal right now is to wait until the intent to return survey window closes to really evaluate how many students want to come back. And I've been watching it. And to be honest, we haven't had that much of a swing yet. Not that many of our parents have actually completed the survey yet, or are not completing it because they're happy with their intent form. But from my perspective and my viewpoint is, I want to be able to offer face-to-face instruction to any person or student or family that wants it. And I want to be able to offer that 4 days a week. And I will do whatever I can to make it 4 days a week. That's what I stood on 3 months ago, 4 months ago, back in October, when we wanted to come back and hybrid was on the table. But I will tell you, I'm going to continue to do whatever I can to make sure that our students can be safe in the building, can be socially distanced, and can return to school 4 days a week. And that is my goal, no matter who wants to come back. Now, does that mean we're all going to have the same homeroom teachers as we had and during our first stint in virtual learning? And I cannot guarantee that. I can't. We're going to have to look. We're going to have to look at our capacity numbers in our classes. And we have some classes that are far under capacity. Maybe they're at 12, 13, 14 students. And we have some classes that are definitely at capacity. You're talking 18, 19, or 20 students. We can typically fit between 18 and 20 students in a classroom that doesn't have a lot of stuff in it, 6 feet apart. But when we start to get over that, then we're starting to lose our social distancing guidelines. So I'm going to continue to do whatever I can to make sure that our students can return safely 4 days a week, but that may not entail having that same homeroom teacher. I understand that is difficult. I understand this could possibly be the third homeroom teacher that a virtual student has had. I totally get that. If that's going to influence your decision-making, then you may want to recommend to stay virtual if you feel like it is going well and you don't want that other change. But I will also, and I'm committed to doing my best to putting students back with their original homeroom teacher. I have that data, I have that record. Infinite Campus is still the same. So we will always try to exhaust that first before we look at other measures. So we're gonna have some more information on that coming. So make sure you are reading the email. Make sure you are looking at my updates. And if any town halls or any Go Team meetings come up, please feel free to join those. But the goal right now is to get our students back in the building who want to come back safely while also providing high quality, seamless virtual instruction. And I feel like we are doing that. So please stay tuned for more information just around how coming back in person will look. So to give you an answer, there is no tipping point. I said this before, our building capacity right now is at 47% capacity at our main campus and 56% capacity at our primary. We have plenty of room to grow. We have plenty of open classrooms in our buildings if we have to create more classrooms or additional classrooms as needed. So we're just going to have to be really open and honest about that. Okay, so I see that we have to maybe streamline some communication with the current reminds and emails and so forth, because it can be confusing for our virtual students. We have a comment that says that a lot of times it sounds like we're speaking only to face-to-face families. Virtual families are left to infer whether information is intended for them or not. That is great feedback, and I appreciate that. It would be helpful if communication would always be labeled whether they are for face-to-face or Morris Brandon. I think that's a great idea. And we also have talked about creating a virtual section for virtual learners potentially in the BMail, to where we could put stuff that is only going to be pertinent for them and vice versa. But I will definitely improve on that and do better on that so we know who is being spoken to and who it entails. So with that said, we have come to the end of our virtual learning town hall. You've heard from some fantastic staff. You've heard from our Go Team. You heard from our PTA. I'm going to make sure that our virtual teachers share this PowerPoint with their classes, because there will be a lot of eyes on it, even though not that many are on here. But I want to say thank you again for being here, for engaging with us, for being a part of our family, for sticking with us through all this. I know it is not easy, especially for virtual families. You're having to balance a lot, and I appreciate that, and we're here to support you. So I say thank you for that. So without further ado, have a great rest of the Friday, and we'll see you back on the computer later today and on Monday.